Okay, here's Becky's bio. She's a leadership coach and a motivational speaker. She is passionate about helping people succeed in life, and she believes that it starts with the willingness to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. She works with clients who are driven and know why, or know that they have a vision and a purpose, but they may not know where to start. She tells her clients, come with a passion, leave with a purpose. Most recently, she earned her bachelor's degree, which is incredible. I didn't realize that you had accomplished that. I knew you were attending.
28 years it took me to get my bachelor's degree. Is that?
A little bit
I mean, that must be a record, right?
I might have exceeded that. But it's a bachelor's degree in intercultural peace building, which I've never heard of that before. That sounds human resources and psychology, and is passionate about teaching others how to create peace in their communities and relationships. She was crowned Miss Hawaii, as you can see. She will also compete in the Miss Universe International pageant next month. You said it's in Vegas this year?
Vegas, July 12th.
Okay.
In Vegas. Yeah.
I'm writing it down. July 12th.
So anyone that wants tickets, you got to get a hold of me.
Okay. I want to hear more about that for sure. I'm running through this bio, but I definitely want to remember that. We got to save more information about that too, for sure. Anyway, we can do that. So we are here. We're in a thriving singles community. We're streaming and recording. So you can watch the recording later if you are not able to hear this right now. But we also love the interaction. So jump in if you want to join us. So Becky, first question. I'm just going to ask questions, but you can run with whatever direction you want to run. Your crown is gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you. It is a little sparkly, isn't it?
Beautiful. I love it.
It's
okay, here's the first question. We do definitely want to focus on where you are today, but I would also love to know where did this begin? Who you are today and what you're doing right now? Where did you begin this personal development journey, and what you're doing today to help other people? Is that
development? First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come, because that's just like anytime, I've done podcasts and I've interviewed a lot of people and been a host of podcasts myself and radio, and it is a hard job. So good for you. And I know you're working very, very hard to be able to create a platform.
Oh shoot, you're getting
and I genuinely say that. So
thank you.
Kind of where I got, the first thing that popped in my head when you said that is my mom told me the other day, because it was my 50th birthday just turned 50 last Saturday. And the thought that came to my mind was, where did this all begin? Was my mom said that she didn't have to do any pushing when I was born. And so I came flying out, and that's basically how I've lived my life since. I've always been somebody that's had a lot of energy, that's been precocious, loquacious, persistent. I mean, all of those kind of things. And so I think as a little girl, I will say that there was times in life where life hit me pretty hard. So it kind of quieted me up. But it's nice to know. I even did a blog the other day about claiming your crown. And it's funny that I'm 50 years old and I finally claimed my crown. Like, this is who I am. Wow. I'm still discovering who I am. So that's kind of where I worked. I grew up in San Francisco. I don't know if you know this, Sherry, but I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in Sunnyvale. And I went to Homestead High School, which is the same school as Steve Jobs. So we went to the same junior high and high school. And I always say was much older than I am and very dead at this point. So I didn't know him, but that's my claim to fame. But yeah, my family, we grew up in San Francisco area. And then my family owned a summer camp for kids in Southern Utah. So every summer of our lives, we'd go out and spend 10 weeks out of the year. And I was a camper. I loved it. I mean, we just bummed out and slept under the stars and met with kids all over the world. And my mom was mortified when we came back from camp because we lost our manners. So she's like, wait a minute, no spitting allowed, no swearing, like you need to like shower every once in a while, type of thing. So I grew up in a summer camp during the summers, and then during the year it was more in the suburbs. And so in some ways I feel like I live two different lives, but where my real heart and soul is in nature. So it's, when people sometimes get funny, they'll say something, I'm like, I'm just a camper. Like, that's all I am. Just put me in nature, let me sit by a river, and I'll find my Zen again.
That is so cool. And what I would say, I would never have guessed that, because every time I see you, you're just dressed to the nines, your high heels and your beautiful face made up and your hair gorgeous and your beautiful clothes. Like, you always look so nice and classy. I mean, not that camping is not classy.
Yes.
But it's definitely, I would see the two as opposite. I'm the same way. I like camping and I like dressing up. But yeah.
Well, you know where that really came from, Sherry, is because I honestly grew up never feeling feminine. And so, if people don't know and haven't followed my story, I lost 130 pounds back in 2000. I started a journey in 2009 and got in recovery for food addiction. And I mean, obviously had battled my entire life with weight. And so when I lost my weight, I went through this identity crisis, and the identity crisis was really like when I was overweight, I never saw myself as beautiful. Even though people may have told me that I was beautiful or I was smart and I was all this other stuff, I didn't see it. And so then all of a sudden I'm thin and I'm getting all this attention from people. And then I realized, wow, I really never saw myself as beautiful. And then I started wearing stilettos and high heels because I'm like, I can, because my feet wouldn't swell now. And I had this new body, this new face, this new meat suit, as I call it. And I was trying to find my identity with like how I now relate to the world and with men and with, guys are running to open up doors for me. And does that make me more valuable or less valuable? Or how does that? So it took me years, and it still is, to be honest with you. The other day when I put on the crown for the first time and went to lunch, I felt like a celebrity. People were looking at me, and I blogged about it on my blog. It's on my website, BeckySampson.com. But on my blog, I talked about why is it that we put a crown on and all of a sudden we're somebody important. And it's the same thing I felt when I lost my weight. And so I went through this journey of discovering and really stepping into my femininity. And that's when all of you guys, most of you in this industry of coaching, is when you met me, right? And then coming to Hawaii, I had to kind of dial that back, because the first guy I met here was a multimillionaire in the coaching industry. And it was like 2 days after I moved here. And I got, connected to him, and I showed up in heels and a suit, like a coral suit. And he goes, "What in the world are you doing, girl?" And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah. Oh, you're
"Take those heels off." And I was like, "What? That's just who I'd become." Right. I was known by the high heels. So now it's very rare that I put the high heels on, and now going for this Ms. Universe again and carry myself in that way. So it's not, I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the ebbs and flows of life. So
that's so cool. Oh my gosh. So you've just told so much fun stuff. So some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is I love the title that we came up with for this discussion, is Say Yes to Life. So what are have you thought about some times when you said yes to life and opportunities, and you were glad that you did that?
I mean, ever since we talked about this this concept of saying yes, I would say that since a little kid, I was very gutsy. If I was afraid of something, then I would go and do it. I mean, I grew up in an adventure camp, so I was afraid of water. I was afraid of fish. I was afraid of heights. And I was afraid that I wasn't enough. It was kind of this process of trying to figure out from a very young age who I was and where that voice was. So I've been gutsy, but on the other hand, and that's caused me to get myself in trouble sometimes. However, probably the biggest thing that I tell people all the time is the biggest yes that I said, and I was telling you a little bit about this the other day, was I have struggled with my weight my whole entire life. And ever since I was really, really young, it was just kind of food was my on the scales a million times, lost a bunch of weight, gained a bunch of weight, you know, and I always say, as the scale went down, my self-esteem would go up. And about where a friend of mine and I were walking in Orem, in the mall, if you remember the mall that's there in Orem, and it was early in the, and she's a Filipino, she's now 83 years old, but she was walking right past me. I'm 5'7", so I'm, you know, we're pretty. She turned to me and she goes, Becky, I've had 4 cookies and I need a detox. And I was like, 4 cookies? Like, that's it? Like, of cookies. And she says, yeah, I need to go to this. This whole thing. I said, I got to work. You know, I went home, didn't think anything of it. The next day we start walking again at the mall. And she turns to me, she goes, look, are you ready? Are you like, we got to leave like in an hour if we're going to go. And I was like, what? I have to work. She goes, Becky, you're the boss, call it off. And I was like, okay. So I said, yes. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, we got in the car. I came home. I said to my husband, I said, look, I don't know what this is about. Pat's just asked me to go down to Vegas, which is about 5-hour drive. And she needs some support around 4 cookies, I guess. I don't know. And so I went over to work and I said, I'm not going to be in today and I'm going to be gone the weekend. So I go down, we drive down there and we get there a little bit late. So they had already started. And as I was writing out the registration, I literally was filling all the information out. And this lady at the front of the room was telling my story. And I remember distinctly looking up from where I was writing my name, and I looked up at her and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, like she was talking about how when she was young, sorry, this thing keeps falling off. When she was young, that she cared more about babysitting when she would ask to be babysit, she would go and babysit kids. She cared more about the food in the house than the kids that she was taking care of. And I was like, are you serious? I had never heard anybody voice that in my life, because that's how I felt. Every time I went babysitting, I would be like, oh, what do you have in the refrigerator? And you know how they always say, they'd be like, oh, help yourself. You can have anything you want in the house, right? Well, to me, I'm like, at that point, I'm addicted to food. Give me all the food I can. And how much can I eat before someone recognizes I've eaten out their stash, you know? And so, and it may not mean something to somebody, but it meant something to me, where she was talking to me. And I remember sitting there and story after story after story. And I was looking around the room going, who are these crazy people? And what is this program? And it was a 12-step program for food addiction. And I turned to my girlfriend that I came with and I said, I don't know what this is, but I just need to start. I need, and she goes, no, Becky, you'll know when you're ready. And I'm like, no. Do you understand? Like, I jump, right? Like,
yes.
Now, like the opportunity is only open for this amount of time and then it's going to close and I'll be in my head about it. I said, I need to start now. And so within a couple of hours, I found the lady in the room. There was about 300 people in the room. And I found the one gal that had lost over 200 pounds. And I went up to her and I said, will you be my sponsor? Because you need a sponsor. It's a totally free program, but you need people to work with you. And I said to her, will you be my sponsor? And, you know, because you're going to have to really beat it out of me because I'm really a tough case. And she turned to me and she goes, Becky, that's not how this works. And I was like, what? because, my thing is I will power it, right? I will power through it, and I'm going to get through it. I'm going to restrict myself, and I can do this, And it just so happens that she lives down the street from me here in Hawaii, like my first sponsor all these years later that we met in Vegas. So I say, you never know when those moments come, because had I not said yes in the mall, like I was not planning on going. Like I gave her all the excuses, and I was like, and she just said, no, let's go. And I said yes. And look at what's changed in my life. Like you and I may not have never met, you know what I mean? Like I would never have done all of the things and met all of the amazing people in my life if I didn't say yes in that moment. Even if I had no idea what was going to be asked of me, what was, what I was signing up for, like what I would have to eat or not eat. I didn't care. All I knew is I wanted what these people had that I had never been able to do, which is to lose a large amount of weight and keep it off. Because I can lose weight, but I couldn't keep it off.
So you had that in your mind to do it. It was a goal of yours, but you couldn't figure out how to do it. Is that?
Oh, absolutely. It was a lifelong. And I remember what my husband said at the time when I left. I said, this is what happened. I came back from that weekend and I said, I'm going to lose my weight. And he says, yeah, we'll see it. We'll believe it when we see it. And I lost all my weight and got divorced 18 months later, just so you know.
Yes.
And it's, and obviously I give all the credit to God and to the people that supported me through that. I still work that same program. I always say, people say, well, how did you lose your weight and how do you maintain it? Well, I do the same thing I did to lose it, to maintain it. And it's not been an easy thing. It's an every single day decision that I have. And but that was one of the biggest yeses I've said that changed everything. And I had no idea it was coming.
So sometimes when we don't want to say yes, there's a reason, and our excuses are bigger than our desire to go, right? So I just wonder what it was that drove you to going. I mean, if you thought you had it in you that you wanted to make some changes, and maybe you thought this was going to be helpful to you.
Have you ever heard of that story, the story about the guy that's sitting in his house and a flood starts coming through the town, and he's like praying to God, please save me, please save me, please save me. And then this guy comes on a boat up to his house, the water's rising and rising, and the boat comes up and he's like, hey, jump on in. He's like, no, God's going to save me, And he's like, okay. So he goes away, and then a helicopter comes and lowers the thing and says, hey, and the guy's like on the roof at this point, like praying to God, save me, save me. And this guy comes with a helicopter and he's like, jump on the ladder, And he says, no, God's going to save me. And then he dies, he drowns, and he goes to the other side and he goes, God, why didn't you save me? He said, I sent you a boat. I sent you a plane. Like, a helicopter. What do you want? Yeah. So I literally look at life that way. I'm like, is this my boat experience? Am I going to say no to something that God is putting in my place and in my path that's going to lead me to where I exactly want to be, like that I've struggled with. So I'm not saying, first of all, it takes a lot of faith, right? Because we have no idea what's on the other side of that. However, if we explore the yes, and you can always say, okay, you know what, this isn't working for me. I can go down this road and it's not working for me, and you can back out of it. And there may be times where you just ride that wave. And I happened to find a program that actually worked, and I rode the wave, and I continue to ride the wave. And there's been plenty of times where I've said yes, and it just hasn't worked out, or it hasn't worked out the way that I think it's supposed to work out. Yeah. But it's having the faith. I'm always constantly asking myself, is this my boat? Yeah. Is this my helicopter? Yeah. Really?
Wow, that's so good. Okay, so here's another thing that tell me about this. Yeah. I would say, in fact, you and I just talked, I guess it was just a couple of weeks ago when I reached out to you, maybe 3 weeks ago. We were chatting and I said, you should do this. We would love to hear your story. So, and you said at the time, you said, I'm going to say yes, but let me tell you what's going on in my life. and all of the things that are going on. And it would be so much easier to say no to this. It would be so much
Yeah.
easier to say, not right now, or another time. And I even said to you, we can always do it in August or September, I mean, there's really, we can do it anytime. And you said, no, I just feel like I need to just say yes. I just need to make it work.
Yeah.
And who knows what would come of it? I mean, it would be awesome for people to see this and maybe a sponsor come up and say, how can I sponsor you? Or
You never know. And is there times where we need to say no because we've got too much going on in our life? Absolutely. So, and only you will know if the no, maybe not yet,
yeah,
is what you need to say for yourself, because you can also say so many yeses that you bury yourself and
yeah,
get really overwhelmed, and then you're not serving anybody, including yourself.
yeah.
Right. So when you reached out to me, and let me back up a little bit, because I mean, well, I said yes to the crown thing, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Right. Yes.
Right?
You got a list. Yeah. Tell us all the things you've said yes to in the
So,
last 6 months.
well, and it's, the thing is that, so yeah, when you reached out to me, I had already made the commitment to do the crown.
Yeah. For July.
Always, sometimes we never know what the outcome is, or the reach that we're going to be able to reach people. And so I kind of question myself, okay, is this the right thing for me to do? And is there enough there that I like, I'm in the flow? That's, and I'm like anybody, that I may say yes, and then I go, oh gosh, did I mean to do that? Should I really do that? Should I back out? Like, I almost backed out of the crown a couple of weeks ago. I was like, maybe this isn't the right time.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then I just went full in and shut all doors on the back end. They say your chicken exit, right? You shut that chicken exit and go full on into the process and to what it is that you need to do there to serve people. It's like all of a sudden the flow starts coming. And all of a sudden, a sponsor comes up, or it was so random. Let me kind of back up and tell you how this whole crown thing happened.
Yeah.
Because I am planning a retreat. I've got 2 retreats, and that is a whole story of itself too.
Right. It is. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I did a retreat last year for 40 women, and I had planned, it was for the food program, and my girlfriend and I, and I decided to go like all the way in, and we did a beautiful resort down the street here. It's a wedding venue, and high end, really high end. It's like a $5 or $6 million estate. And it took us a while to fill it and everything, but it was smack in the middle of me graduating and then me going to a ropes course. And I was having a hard time graduating. And I finally just put a hold on it for a whole week. I said, nobody gets to call me about the retreat. I got to graduate. I got to finish my class. And so I did this retreat, and I will be honest with you, I was very resentful for some of it, because I was putting so much time and effort in it, and I wasn't being compensated financially, because in 12-step, we don't do that. We give service. And at the time I was just kind of like, okay, this is wonderful. This is great, but it's a lot of work. And now looking back, I'm like, dude, it's preparing me for this week, for this month, or this year's retreats, because now I've got the system on how, and the resources to putting people together. So sometimes we don't see the pieces of the puzzle until years later of why we had to go through what we went through. So I've have my eyes on several places to do retreats. And I've contacted a lot of people here that do retreats, that have retreat centers. And a girlfriend of mine travels all over the world and does retreats. And she's always like, Becky, when's the next retreat? When's the next? And I have guy friends of mine. They're like, Becky, do another retreat, do a singles retreat, because my background's in real estate and in, property management and summer camp. And so all of that stuff of bringing people to an experience and then getting the housing and all that stuff is right up my alley, and all the logistics that take care of all that stuff. So I said to my girlfriend that goes all over the world and does retreats. I said, look, there's this retreat center that my girlfriend did a retreat there, and I want to go check it out. she goes, oh, I'll come with you. I'll come with you. So we go and we look at this and she goes, oh, Becky, this is a no-brainer. Like literally, this is 1 month ago, the beginning of, almost exactly to the day, because it was the 10th of May. And we go there and she goes, Becky, this is a no-brainer. You got to do this.
Gosh.
And I was like, what? And she goes, no. I mean, just do it. 3 months. And they had this one little week that came available, or sorry, 3 weeks that came available because of a cancellation that they had. And so I was just planning on taking 1 week. And I was like, Tupa, do you think we can do this? She goes, oh yeah, absolutely. We could do this. And I'm like, what? And so I jumped in and made some connections, made some phone calls to some people, put a deposit down, and then called a friend of mine here locally that wanted to do retreats with me. And she's like, I sat down with her for maybe like 4 or 5 hours. She goes, I'm in, Becky, let's do this. I'm like, this is a short runway. People usually plan, I don't know, 6 months to a year for a retreat. This is 3 months. Now we're down to 2 months.
Wow.
And put the deposit down and everything started falling in place. But then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I get a text from my sister-in-law, and she's running for Mrs. Universe and Mrs. Universe International. And I said, oh, that's great. I have a lot of friends that have done pageants and they've asked me to do them and all that kind of stuff. And maybe I'll come out and support you on July 12th in Vegas. And she sends me the next day, she calls me at 6 a.m. in the morning, because people always forget that we're 4 hours behind you guys. Right? So she called me at 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, wakes me up, and she goes, Becky, they don't have anybody for Hawaii. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah, you need to apply, and tomorrow's the deadline. And so I applied. I called the director. He's like, yeah, you're in. Let's go.
Oh
I'm like, I'm planning 2 retreats. You know what I mean? Like, what am I thinking? And I called a good friend of mine who is a beautiful gentleman that is just always been so supportive of me. And I said, what do you think? He says, Becky, it's and you can do this and the retreats. And I was like, he's like, play in the and, not the or. I do retreats, or I do this and do and.
That's true.
And I was like, okay, well, yes, I will do it. And he says, you have 2 weeks to think about it, to back out. And believe me, how many times I thought, okay, it's just not the right time. There's so much to do.
Easier to say no. Yes. Yeah.
So, look, I'm like everybody else, where I'm just like, okay, is this really what I should be doing right now? And I have friends of mine going, Becky, you're too many things spinning, too many things spinning. But here's the thing is that in the last week or two, I've realized that I may not see how this all fits together, right? And I never do see how it fits together until it starts fitting together.
Yeah.
And then I'm going, oh, I'm going to be out in the public. Yeah. And I can let people know about what I do and about the services, and be able to serve people with this message, because my message is all about, the fight against obesity. Yeah. And, how long have I been trying to get out there to nonprofit organizations and to women in general, and teaching them about how to change and make healthy decisions. And let's face it, a crown does help you get into some doors.
Yeah.
So, and so I say that it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for the sponsors, the people that are supporting me, because they get exposure. It's a win for the nonprofit organizations that I'm going to be speaking with. It's a win for the organization, the Ms. Hawaii or the Ms. Universe International Society, and the platform, that thing. And it's a win for the people that struggle with obesity, because I'm going to be sharing that message about claiming your crown.
Oh, I love
so
it.
We never know. We never know.
What a fun, such an inspiring way to tell people to help people with your message, is to tell your personal story.
Yeah.
It's to say, I've done this, I've been there, and this is what I did. And now I'm here, and you can too. You can be here too. But that's what, anyway, I know that there are a lot of people, I know a handful, at least a dozen people that struggle with the food addiction.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the food. It's not just about, you can't just say, stop eating sugar. You can't just say, stop lay off the calories and just exercise. There's something underneath all of that that I know you know the answer to, that there are things underneath it all that you need to work on first. And
Well, we all do, and we all have vices, right? Mine just happen to be food.
yes. Well,
That's
also, well, what I mean, I'm sorry, I mean, I interrupted you, but
yeah.
I was thinking that when you can tap into that, it's like a code. It's like, it makes it easy to have these goals. It seems so overwhelming because you have that addiction, but the addiction is there because of what is underlying. Anyway, so it's working on your, I would say, self-image, on how you see yourself and how you talk to yourself, all that stuff. That's the kind of stuff that you work with too.
It's from the inside out, you know, a lot of diets and everything out there. And believe me, I've tried them all, and I've even coached people on it, you know, is trying to attack that problem from the outside in, which is like, you know, we are worried about what other people think of us, and we're not dealing with the inside because it will just come back. It's a cycle, right?
Yeah.
So working a 12-step program really helped me go inward and find those parts of me that I needed to heal. And then I continue to heal, and then I needed to get honest with myself. And, you know, when I start feeling stressed and when I start feeling overwhelmed, you know, I'm so used to just going to food to numb it out. And that's just not something that I do anymore. That's not where I allow myself to go. And I've replaced that with healthy activities, whether it's, you know, going for a walk or doing writing or meditation. I mean, even earlier today, I'm just laying on my couch and I just take a breather and turn everything off and just, you know, go inward and start doing the investigation work and going, okay, how are you feeling? What do you need in this moment to take care of yourself? Who do you need to reach out to? And so that you don't have to have food be the thing that you turn to have to relate to something that people struggle with food. We just happen to wear it.
Yes.
Right. And it just shows in public, you know, some of the things that we're dealing with on the inside, and getting to the point where we don't judge each other for it. Right. We don't put shame. That's probably the biggest work I do with people and clients, is help them get out of the shame. You are not bad because you do these things.
Yeah.
It's just your way of coping.
It's not who you are. It's not your identity. That's the thing that we attach those weaknesses or challenges that we have as who we are. And it really does. It gets in the way a lot of times of who we really are, right?
And our trials don't define us. You know, that's what I said in my blog last week, even with this crown, is just because I put a crown on doesn't mean I'm any more important or less important. This does not define me.
Yeah.
It doesn't define me. It describes what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And the same thing with my body, you know, going into a competition that's about beauty and the outward. I mean, my internal dialogue, to be honest with you, I'm about to write about this one on my blog today, is my internal dialogues going, oh, you're not good enough. You're, you know, you got this saggy skin and you got this that's going to show, and, you know, you don't. And I'm just like, stop, because my body doesn't define me. My story doesn't define me. It has refined me over the years, and it's helped me learn the lessons that I need to, and it's helped me give a platform to be able to identify and to relate to people. But it doesn't, I just remember when I first lost my weight, I was doing all this mirror work where I would sit there and I'd slap my face. I'm like, this doesn't define me, you know? And although the world sees it as valuable, it was a journey of learning to discover myself way beyond all of this stuff. Yeah. Right. So and that's what I say is people are important.
So what defines you, Becky? Who are you? Who is Becky?
Who am I? I say I'm a beautiful, powerful, passionate, loving, caring, forgiving woman. And that forgiveness started with forgiving myself. That's way back at the very beginning when my first sponsor said to me, Becky, this is not about beating yourself up. This is not about beating your, you know, allowing yourself to, sorry, my crown is like, not forcing yourself into submission. It's it's about learning to love yourself and be patient with the process of discovery. And that's really what I help people do is that, look, the more you beat yourself up, the longer it's going to take. Like,
it is so true. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
That's so true. But I love to know, even some of the worst challenges you might say it is, I imagine that the obesity and the food addiction. But what did you gain from it? I always see these obstacles as they're so challenging.
Stepping stones.
Yes, they are. They are. You learn from them and you can help others too. But I just wonder what did you learn from these challenges, these trials? Right now, I can maybe even answer that question by seeing how you live your life and how you help others. I've just answered it.
I've learned through meeting thousands of people, and I say thousands of people because it literally, when I hit my goal weight, got divorced, and quit my job all in the same month of July 2010. That's closely when I met you, right?
Yeah.
When everything in my whole life just like complete reset. And I have learned that not everybody has a desire to share their story. And there's been people that I've met that have lost a tremendous amount of weight and don't care to ever bring it up. Okay. But one of the things in 12-step, and some people have come to me and say, Becca, why do you feel like you have to be out there and doing all this stuff? And even a guy that I dated many years ago, this is a funny story. We were at dinner one night and he said, Becky, why do you feel like you have to go and like be so public with your story? And it bothered me. I went home that night and I really thought about it. I'm like, why? Why do I feel this incredible need to give back? There's two things that came to my mind. Number one, he was a father of 5 children. And his whole life revolved around his children. Well, I had 2 miscarriages. I had 3 miscarriages my first year of my first marriage. And so I never was able, the obesity caused me to have all kinds of problems with PCOS and infertility issues. And we went through the whole gamut for 7 years. And it was a really big challenge in my life. And I cried many nights because I've always wanted to be a mom. And I've always wanted to be someone that has influence, and to be able to have a child and raise it and influence that way. However, that just never was my thing, right? So I think one of the reasons why I'm so big with my story, and I also know that there's people that are suffering, right? Yeah. So I think of the world as my oyster. So that's kind of my influence that way. Secondly, in 12-step, we talk about the 12th step is you can't keep what you don't give away. And so I think of, if I want my success, if I want to keep my success with my weight loss and with the other, total shift from negative, low self-esteem, negative talk, and it doesn't mean I don't go back there sometimes, because I do. A couple of days ago, I had a tough day where I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, like, where is this all coming from? You know what I mean? And, but I don't live there like I used to. Yeah. And so for me, I really truly give it back because I want people to feel the freedom they can have when they get out of that negativity. And I've seen the miracle happen. I know people can change, and I know people can change because I've experienced it, and I continue to change. I'm always changing. I mean, I'm always learning. I'm always seeking for advice. Yes. I mean, I never profess that I know everything and that this is the way it's going to be forever, and I'm always challenging the way that I think. Even my partner for the retreat said to me, she goes, Becky, that's a lot of work, all that thinking and processing and all that, and I just do. I think ever since I was a little girl, I remember I was 12 years old and I took our ATC and drove it out into the cove and put on a piece of paper. And I wish I could remember this because I was telling my friend this the other day, but I wrote on this little piece of paper all this really profound stuff about myself or my life or something or where I wanted to be in a year. I was 12 years old. I had a boom box on the back of remember when the boom boxes were like this really huge thing? And I took it out there, played some music, wrote on this piece of paper, buried the piece of paper, thinking that it would be there next year. Because I was only 12. And I went back the next year and of course it wasn't there. I'm like, where did it go? It disintegrated, right? But anyway, I think from a young age, I've always just had this fascination of learning who I am and what my purpose is. And I didn't know at that time that I would be giving back on such a big level, but it's something in my DNA. And I say to people, if you don't share your story, imagine what would happen if that one lady, when I walked in that room, wasn't sharing her story.
Yeah.
Like, imagine. And so I keep telling my story because she told her story.
Yeah.
Because maybe someone's listening and they go, oh, that's me. And if Becky can do it, I can do it. And I know you hear that a lot. It's kind of cliche, but that's what changed my life, literally forever.
Yeah. Do you know, when you said that, it struck something in me when you said some people don't want to share their stories. I think that that's because, and tell me if I think I'm wrong, that that part of their story became their identity, and it's shameful. That's a shameful part of their history or their life, and they attach so much meaning to, what does this mean about me? All of the pain of how they were treated or how they saw themselves or how they felt about themselves, all the shame, and letting it go through losing the weight. It didn't let go of the shame. They didn't let that go. So that's also another reason why people like to encourage people to share their stories in a place where they're not judged, where where they're praised for sharing their story and embracing your story, all of it, and learn.
Well, and some people are just not, they're not as out there.
Yeah.
They're not, it's more of a private thing that and I learned it's okay. That's
it's not a wrong thing. No, for sure.
Totally okay. If you don't want to share it. And if you don't, but I had a business partner.
Is what
the what?
But I'm wanting people to embrace their story. They don't have to share it. They could write it down.
So I was talking to a friend of mine today. I love when things happen like in my real life, right? I was talking to a dear friend of mine today that I've been through a lot of training this last year with. I met her just over a year ago. She spent 20 years in the prison system, and or I should say in prison. And she's been out, I think, for 13, 14 years. And she is just got an amazing story. And I was telling her, I'm like, what's funny is, to you, your story doesn't seem that great.
Yeah.
But to me, your story is miraculous, because I don't even know what the percentage of people that come out of prison, especially being there for 20 years, actually come out and make a difference in the world. And she's wanting to go back into the prison system and help people, help them in the way that she was helped. And I said to her, it's the same thing with me. I lived my 130-pound weight loss, and I'm like, I don't care if I ever tell the story again. However, it's important to somebody that's out there that doesn't think that it's possible. Right? So everybody's got a story, and everybody's story is important, because you matter and what you experienced, and there's somebody out there. And I have so many of my coach friends, Sherry, and we might have had this conversation too, where a lot of us, especially the last 10 years, have gone through some really difficult things.
Yeah.
And they're like, why am I going through this, Becky? And I'm like, because somebody is going to come into your life someday that's going to cross your path, that you're going to be able to bless. And you're going to go, oh, this is why I went through that.
Yeah.
Is because you needed somebody to let you know that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I made it through it. You can do it. And give them a bit of encouragement, like people have done for me.
There's so much encouragement. There's also the character that it builds, that I'm finding, like what kind of character do I need to build? And I think I've brought this up in the past recently, even, is that these challenges that we have that are repeats from what we've had in the past, the being single. That I was single for a lot of years before I got married, and now I'm there again. So what is it about being single? What is it about this that I need to learn? What characteristics do I need to build? The faith in God, or independence, or what? I don't know what it is.
And what if you're exactly where you're supposed to be?
That's
like, I have never in my life, and I think I told you this the other day, I've never in my entire life, 50 years, been more at peace with being single.
Yeah.
Like, I Ms. is a reason. Yeah, right.
Yes.
I've gotten to a place in my life, if God wanted me to be dating somebody, and if he wanted me and us to be married, he knows where we live.
Yep.
He knows where we live. I mean, he's amazing at orchestrating that. Now I live on an island in the middle of nowhere.
That you felt inspired to move to, right? You felt like you needed to be there, right?
Absolutely. And so it's finding joy in where you're at in your life and finding that peace.
Yes.
At least that's what I'm learning myself, because I spent most of my life always feeling like I had to find something, or I had to be somebody, or I had to feel a certain way, or I had to accomplish certain things to be good enough for this, or I'm being punished because I'm single, or I just don't feel that way anymore. And I'm enjoying the journey of growth of really dating myself, but learning my own voice and leaning into that process.
That's so cool. So let me ask you, what is your what do you get to accomplish as Ms. Hawaii? What are some of your responsibilities? I don't know what I know that it's a great thing. It's a great title and it's a great accomplishment. It shows your talents and it shows it's not just looks. But of course, looks is a huge part of it. You are gorgeous for sure.
You're very sweet.
But it's what you do and your accomplishments and your talents. So anyway, tell me about the role of Ms. Hawaii and also your interest in Ms. Universe, Ms. International.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, what are the kind of things that you can accomplish with it in your platform? You get to do public speaking, you get to somehow represent.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've really thought about this, because I didn't grow up in Hawaii. And I've been here for 4 years now. And what does it mean to really represent such a beautiful, iconic place, right? Because this has so much history. And the people that are here, the Polynesian people especially, are just some of the most, they actually are the most humble people. Because it was funny when I first moved here, all these stories one of the first things I did within months, because that's what I do too, is I help people tell their stories, and I interview people and get them on platforms so that they can express that story. But I got here and I was like, there needs to be a TV show. These guys need to tell their story. And boy, it's a little difficult to get sometimes the Polynesians to really tell their story, because they're so humble about it. They're not flashy. This is not something that you would normally find here. Like I said, you take the stilettos off and you put the slippers on. Slippers are flip-flops, And so I had to really lean into, but one of the things I really appreciate about Hawaii and what I get to represent is one of the things that I have felt here that I think I haven't felt anywhere else is just this ability to just be me, right? Like, you see people in the store and they're wearing swimsuits. Granted, you've got the locals and then you've got the tourists, or you're down at the beach and everybody's at all different sizes. It doesn't matter. You see people, they never wear makeup. I mean, Polynesians, very rarely you ever see people with makeup and they're, they don't have lipstick or they don't have eyelashes. I mean, all that stuff. Every once in a while you'll find somebody there. But for the most part, it's really a very low key, very humble environment. And to represent Miss Hawaii, for me, I want it to be something that shows the aloha spirit. The aloha spirit is this spirit of all acceptance and all of love and giving of what I have to give, to support, and to love and accept others. And so that's the one thing with the Ms. Hawaii. Why would I care about the Ms. Universe is something that they require in order for you to hold the title, is that you get to speak to a nonprofit organization every month for the year.
Wow.
And I'm just like, what a great cause to be able to go out and be of service and share the message. I'm really going to hone in on claiming your crown. Like whoever you are, you don't need a crown to claim who you are. Step into your divinity and who you were meant to be, and the purpose and your passion. That's such a big thing for me. So I get to go to schools. I get to go to, there's a lot of really great schools that work with the kids. There's organizations that help with health and wellness. There's, as I've been doing my research, there's foundations that help with the homeless. There's someone that I just partnered recently to help feed the homeless here in Hawaii, which is something that I got involved with. Did you ever get involved with the one in Utah? Yeah, there was a bunch of us that would go and help with the homeless there in Utah. So yeah, and then when I go to California, I'm going to be in California for 5 days. I'm going to go work the streets, so to speak, with the crown.
I did it in California, not here, but I worked with the homeless in
California. I mean, anytime that you can find, and one of the first things I did on the island, just because I didn't know anybody, right? I got connected with the food bank, and they're always looking for people to come and to serve the people with the food bank. And then COVID hit, and then now the food bank wasn't once a month, it was once a week. So we were feeding so many people. And so I would take my van, and anytime they had extra food, I would fill my whole entire van full of food, and I would take it to a place where I knew that they would be used. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to be in service in that way.
So cool.
So yeah.
Awesome that you can do that and you get those opportunities. So there's 2 questions I wanted to ask you before we end. One is, okay, so do you still need a sponsor, or do you have a sponsor? Is there someone, can we help you find a sponsor?
You're so cute.
So how does that work?
So yeah, well, okay, by the way, this is all new to me because I have never been a pageant girl. I don't know anything about pageants. And I literally just found out that I'm going for 2 crowns for Ms. Universe or Ms. Universe International. I just found that out like 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
So there's only 10 of us competing. And so I have a 1 in 5 chance of getting either one of those titles, which is awesome. Really great odds. Yeah. But in the process, there's just a lot of things that need to be paid for, like registration, flights, hotels, clothing. You've got to, that kind of stuff, just the initial stuff. So yes, I am seeking sponsors, and I just finished my sponsor page on my website.
Awesome.
So people could go to beckysampson.com.
Okay.
And then /sponsors.html. Or if you go under the blog, it'll say sponsors. And and it has a whole page on like what I'm doing for the sponsors, because my background is in marketing and sales. And so I'm going to be doing a whole marketing campaign for my higher end sponsors that I have. But then, of course, when I get the title of Ms. Universe or Ms. Universe International, then there's other fees like flying and hotels and stuff like that to go speak to all these different organizations.
Okay. So that's what I was wondering. What do they get out of it? What they would get out of it is your marketing skills, your marketing.
Well, I'm going to work with them on marketing, but also they get sponsors all over my website, all over the website for the international platform as well. Okay. And then I want to work specifically with sponsors to go speak to their ideal demographic.
Nice.
So they can bring me in and speak, and let's talk about who's your ideal people, and they can say, hey, we're bringing in Ms. Hawaii. If I keep the Ms. Hawaii, then I'm going to have that for the year, and if I go for Ms. Universe and Ms. Universe International, then we'll have that title. So it's going to be a crazy year.
So cool. Yeah. So is the Miss Universe a bigger Ms. Universe? Is it a bigger crown?
I don't know. I know it's a different crown and it's a different sash.
More sparkly or something. I don't know.
And it is, I can kind of feel it right now, it's like I can feel the indentation right there. It's kind of crazy, but it's been fun. It's been fun because I took it to nursery with me this Sunday, and I put it on my little nursery kids, They were so cute.
Fun.
So it's fun.
Claim their crowns too. They need to claim crowns. Okay. Yeah. So I think we might have covered all the fun things that I want to ask. The one other thing is to tell us as much as you want to say about the retreats. Have you already filled up your spots? Do you have any more openings for people to join your retreats?
Yes. Yes. So the retreats, so this retreat, my last retreat had 40 people, 40 women. The thing about this retreat is it's only 12 spots. So it's going to be a very intimate retreat, and it's in a beautiful location. If they go to HawaiiRadiantRetreats.com, it'll show this picture of me way up on the mountain, and it's right above where the retreat center is going to be. And I remember when I went hiking there a couple months ago, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this, I've lived here for 4 years and I didn't realize until you make the climb to the very top of those mountains, you just don't realize how incredibly beautiful this area is. I mean, of course I swim in the ocean all the time.
Great place for a retreat. Oh my gosh.
Oh, what a beautiful place to do a retreat. So women's retreat and a writer's retreat.
Okay. Yep. The women's retreat underway. Okay, so what do you do at the women's retreat? I imagine there's lots of stuff.
So we at the women's retreat it's literally going to be, it's a women's empowerment retreat. We're going to be dealing with getting clear on our values, on our identity. We're going to be talking a lot about identity, our values, where we want to go in our life, the goals, the things that we want to accomplish, our purpose, our passions. I'm going to be speaking on one of the days. We're going to be really addressing how to make peace, because it's called Pathway to Peace. How to make peace with the relationships in your life, and most importantly, with the relationship with yourself. And we're going to have some really, really cool adventure as well. I have a girlfriend of mine that has a 70-foot sailboat. So for the first 5 people that sign up, they're going to be able to secure their spot on there. It's a beautiful, they take people out at the sunset down outside of Honolulu. And it is I mean, I've been out there twice, and it is the most amazing. You go out at sunset and you come back when all the city lights, when it's dark. It's just amazing, beautiful. So they're going to do that one night. And then our writer's retreat, I'm flying in a girlfriend of mine from, do you know Angie Fenimore?
I recognize that name, but okay. I don't know.
She is a dear friend of mine. She was on one of my radio shows 10 years ago. And I called her and I'm like, girl, I'm doing a writer's retreat. She goes, I'm there. What do you need? I'm like, I need you to come out. So she is an absolute expert at writing books and getting people on, getting them pitched to organizations, and to whether you want to do self-publishing or you want to do publishing the traditional way, how to write your story in a very compelling way that people want to not put your book down. And I'm going to be honest with you, Sherry, the reason why I'm doing this is because I have a book in me.
Yes.
And I have several books, and I just have not been able to get it to publication yet. Yeah. And I said, well, why not host a retreat for writing books? And so, yeah, that's only 12, but we do have that open to men as well. So that one's men and women that we're going to be doing that. And that's 8 days, 7 nights. So that one's a longer retreat because we're going to be doing a working writer's retreat.
So write your book in 8 days in Hawaii.
Yay.
With the help of these coaches that know how to do it.
It's going to be, I mean, really, honestly, I'm very excited.
I remember you talking about your book, and you can talk a little bit about it. I know you want to keep the title under wraps until it's copyrighted, but it's about navigating through divorce, right?
Yes.
The legal side of divorce.
So some people may not know, but I the last 3 years I've been going through a pretty incredible divorce.
Yes.
So, I moved here in Hawaii, and soon after I got here, my former sweetheart, as I call him, threatened divorce, and that's just the road that he chose to go down. And it ended up being a very, very long process through the divorce court, 27 hearings, separate hearings. And, so for majority of that, I represented myself. So I learned a lot about the court system. So one of the books that I'm writing is helping people through that process of divorce, not only on the spiritual level, physical level, the emotional level, and financial level. Because it's like, how do you really remain strong during one of the most difficult and challenging times of your life? Yeah. And I feel one of the reasons why I did so well through it, and that I was able to keep myself sane through it, was because I kept my heart, I did the very best I could to keep my heart soft towards him and towards the process. I wasn't perfect. However, I wanted to make sure that I became better, not bitter, through this experience, because it's so easy during divorce to get to that point where you start seeing the world and men and or women, depending on who you are, you see through a certain lens, and you start seeing that person as, evil or whatever. Well, they're a real person going through their own troubles and trials as well. So it took a lot of work for me mentally and spiritually to stay in a place of still love and kindness. And so, yeah, so I write a lot about that. Probably the number one thing I say to people all the time is don't even plan on getting divorced until you have a team of people around you, friends of yours, and not just one or two, right? Like a whole tribe of people who are willing to hold your hand and hold you up during the difficult days. And through the process, I learned a lot about the law.
Yeah. And now she wants to be an attorney, a divorce attorney.
Oh, I've considered it. We'll see where the road leads me on that one. But I definitely have been able to bless a lot of people's, when they're going through it. I've had friends saying, Becky, I need you to talk to another friend of mine, another friend of mine, another friend, and so I've supported quite a few people, not only just emotionally, but to help them navigate the judicial system, what not to do and what to do when you're getting divorced, and what your rights are, and what your resources are. People don't realize that there's a lot of resources out for people. So that's one of my books.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obesity, overcoming obesity, or preventing it. Or
Yes. Well, my other book, I think I wrote it a long time ago. I just haven't published it. It's called Drop It: How to Win in Life by Losing.
Oh.
And I use kind of the losing as sometimes we need to lose beliefs that we have, limiting beliefs. So LBS, like pounds, guess what? Pounds, we're losing pounds. LBS sounds for limiting belief systems. We need to drop those limiting belief systems in order to win, because sometimes we get stuck. Same thing with the divorce. That's another one of my tips, is that it's like you got to have something to look forward to, or else you're going to get stuck in the past. Yeah. It is so easy to get sucked right back into all of the garbage and the things that were difficult. I mean, and then you see people all the time coming out of divorce, they don't recover. Yeah. It's like there is life after divorce. And so, yeah, it's addressing all of that kind of stuff.
Focusing on what it is that you want to create.
What do you want? And not what you not want. Right.
Yes. What you want to avoid, not what you want to avoid.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's so good. Yeah. So is there anything else that I have missed? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we wanted to make sure that we tell. BeckySampson.com and HawaiiRadiantRetreats.com. But is that how they sign up? That is through that retreat website, or do they do it through your website if they want to sign up for your retreats?
So yeah, there's a link on my website that says Hawaii Retreats. So you can go that way. So BeckySampson.com, or you can go straight to HawaiiRadiantRetreats.com. And that will get them to there. But I would say, what I always love to encourage people is, no matter what your life experience has been, like, it has been for a purpose. And I always, for me, I looked for what is the lesson? What am I learning? What do I need to learn in this moment? And turning those difficult moments into blessings. And how can I still continue to bless my own personal spirit and encourage myself, but how can I also encourage other people? Yeah. And how can I bless other people's lives with what I'm learning? And so, and that's something that's helped me get through my difficult times, is I know that this is a temporary thing. So if you're going through something that's difficult right now, write down, what is it I'm learning? Yeah. What do I need to learn? And how can I use what I'm learning to bless other people's lives? How can I, if I want to keep the success that I have, I need to give it away. Yeah. And every single one of us matter. So life is happening for you, not to you. And I know Tony Robbins talks about that all the time, but that is when I've been in my darkest moments and my most difficult, like, I can't make it through this. I'm just like, okay, it's happening for me. So if it's happening for me, then what do I need to learn?
Yeah.
So I can get through it quicker. So yeah, that's probably what I would leave with, because that's made a huge change in the way, the perspective I see life.
And that is what makes your life story so interesting. That's what makes people's stories so interesting. In fact, I was just thinking what people can do is take all the prompts. I actually have a PDF and an ebook that people can do, an interactive writing your life story, creating your future story, coaches and all that kind of stuff, retreats and stuff that go connect with it. But they can take this with them to your retreat and write their book of their life story. Hey.
That's awesome. I need to take a look at that. I know you told me about that, and that was before I even thought about doing this, but I need to go look at that because this is the thing I love about you, Sherry. Can I just tell you what I love about you?
Sure.
I love that you have such a desire to serve people, right? I know how hard, first of all, I know firsthand because of the work it takes to do stuff like this. I know how hard it is and how much heart and soul you have to put into it. You're going to make me cry. And I appreciate that you have that desire in your heart ever since I met you to be able to help provide that platform for other people so that they can go bless other people as well. So anything that I can do to support you in what you're doing in telling people's story, 100%, girl, I'm on that journey because I know that stories sell. Not necessarily sell for monetary thing, but they connect us as human beings when we tell our stories.
Yeah.
And anything that you can do to help people get that story out of them and to guide them through that process, 110% do it, because sometimes it's hard for us to get out. We live it. So, I mean, we're thinking, well, what's the big deal?
It's so true. I was not really aware. If I were to think of my life, I think it's similar to what you mentioned. A lot of people don't really want to tell some of the harder parts of their life. And it wasn't until I started sharing my life story that I was able to, there's still pieces that bring up shame that I haven't shared or dived into too much. But when I do those, that's what my greatest strengths, my greatest joy in my life, embracing those moments and seeing God's hand through all of it. Even the most ugly parts, I see his hand, I see his purpose. It wasn't always his decision. Sometimes it was agency, but he always turned it out to be beautiful, and always I learned lessons, or I gained character strengths. And whether I might die alone, I don't know. Who knows? I just think that it won't matter because I'm seeing these things in my life and I'm following God's plan for me. And anyway, I love hearing stories. I just have such an excitement to hear people.
Well, that reminds me, just this last thing it reminds me, a guy that I dated many years ago, and this was shortly after I lost all my weight, right? And I was out there and I was sharing stories, and I could tell that there was a distance between me and the people I was talking to. And he came to me one day with feedback and he says, Becky, you need to share the pain. Like people need to know that you still struggle every day with your weight. You still struggle. It's like you haven't just arrived, because they don't identify with you in your triumphs necessarily. And that was a big moment for me to get vulnerable and say, look, I still struggle. Like even right now, I mean, even for this pageant, I'm like 10 pounds more than I like to be. And it's like, so I'm in my head going crazy that way. And it's you being willing to share those parts where people can go, oh, now I can relate to her. They don't relate to this, everything's happy and glorious. And, I live on an island and all this wonderful. Yeah. Well, yes, that's part of my life. It's not everything. I'm no different than anybody else. And you're no different than anybody else. And you and I have shared our difficulties, and we do have difficulties just like everybody else. The difference, I think, that makes a difference with people who go and make a difference in the world and don't are the ones that are willing to be vulnerable and that are willing to go, you know what? I can't care more about what other people think of me. I just can share from my heart. And when you share from your heart, who's going to argue with that?
It's so true. Yeah, I just have this critic is really mean sometimes. Really mean. Like
you know what I say to that? You know what I say to that? Thank you for your feedback. Now go away.
Yeah. There's another part of me that's so sensitive and the other part of me that's so critical. So there's always this pull between I want to make a difference, or I want to share what's in my heart, I want to share what I'm learning, I want to do these things, and then the other part of me that's saying, sit down and zip it,
Well, and welcome to being human, Sherry. Yes, and I think every single freaking coach has what do they call that? The imposter syndrome.
Yes.
I'm not going to be good enough. Nobody's going to listen. That's the voice that goes in my head all the time. Becky, shut up. Nobody wants to hear you. Like, why would they want to listen to you? You have nothing important to say. I mean, where does that come from? Like, the devil. That's Satan talk.
It is. I just thought of this the other day. I don't know why it's taken so long for me to realize this, but when I guess I can visualize that there's actually two parts of us. For some reason, the verse or the scripture, the thought, the concept, whatever, is the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. The flesh that is saying, sit down and be quiet. And don't let anyone see you saying that. You're going to get embarrassed. That's the flesh. And the spirit is saying, let's go out there and live our lives, make a difference and do God's will. Let's glorify God. And
it's the wind underneath our wings. And why are we so uncomfortable being ourselves? Like, I really think that's a whole nother workshop that I teach too.
Yeah.
But I think one of the most difficult things that I have had to learn in my life, and I'm continuing to learn, is to be comfortable in my own skin, in my own voice, in my own feelings. I was just told today, actually, by a friend of mine, I shouldn't trust my feelings. And I'm like, well, I have to, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes we get fooled in all kinds of different things, but I've got to do what's right for me, and instead of relying so much on what other people think that I should be doing or should not be doing. And so it is a life journey to be comfortable in our own skin and be able to speak our truth, but do it in a loving, kind manner, doing the best that you can to bring the best of you to the table and not letting those things hold us back. I mean, I'm uncomfortable wearing a freaking crown.
Yeah.
And because of what we in society think that it represents. Yeah. That's the big thing. If you do you and you do what you're comfortable with, then that's all that's required. You don't have to be anybody else. You don't have to do it the way that I do it, and I don't have to do it the way that you do it. Right. We just be ourselves, and naturally the people that are going to gravitate towards us, that are going to see the value that we bring to their life, they will come to us. And then the other people, they'll be naysayers, and we say, thank you for your feedback. Now go away.
That's right. I love it. It's so good. So, hey, I did want to, did I interrupt you? Were you going to say something?
Go ahead.
I wanted to thank Teresa for being on here. Teresa joined us. So I will keep it in the Thriving Singles community, the live version, and then the edited version I'll put on YouTube, which is Life Stories Shared, is where I share these. So, but Teresa, thank you if you're still there.
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys, everyone. Beautiful.
Oh. So this was a good push to get started again. So I appreciate it.